This video is dedicated to Antonio Rouse. Antonio, thank you. Anowon the Ruin Thief versus Nath of the Gilt Leaf. An Elvish Mystic on turn 1 for our opponent. Oh, we've got a Morphic Pool in our opening hand. This is a hangover from a multiplayer version of the deck that I made. Let's go for the Bloodchief Ascension on turn 1. And we'll have to hope that we've got time to play in the Morphic Pool tapped at some point in the next 5 turns. A Soul Ring from our opponent, and that takes them into Arbor Elf. No Forest in play at the moment though. And then a Bitter Blossom, they go down to 1 card in hand. Alright, Nighthawk Scavenger, so we've got something to do on turn 2, 3 and 4 now. Let's play out the Soaring Thought Thief and pass the turn over. Now an Earthcraft, so I'm guessing they can combo off with that at some point when they get another piece. They've only got a basic Swamp for the Infinite Black mana though. Using the Earthcraft to untap the Swamp with the Arbor Elf and doing it again with the Fairy. So getting down their commander here, I imagine. And there he is. They lost life there, so we'll put a counter on the Bloodchief Ascension. Okay, in Cyclonic Rift, I think we can swing into our opponent. And they will mill 2. We get rid of Chord of Calling, that's really good. And, oh wow, a Guy's Cradle, 2 really good mills there. They have to take it, of course, so let's go for the Sunken Hollow into the Nighthawk Scavenger. And that is a 3-3 with Flying Death Touch and Lifelink. Now we have to discard a card at random. And it is the Swamp, so we have to hope that we'll keep hold of a Swamp to get our commander down next turn. Diabolic Intent sacrificed their elf that they've just made. I don't think they untapped the Swamp with the Earthcraft before they did that. Alright, and then it is Squirrel Nest, so yeah, I think that's infinite tokens for them. So for anyone who doesn't know the combo, Earthcraft will tap down a creature and untap a land. So they can just tap down the squirrel that they make to untap the Squirrel Nest. And Squirrel Nest gives a land tap and make a squirrel token. So they can just do that infinitely. That does assume that we can't get rid of their board though. They might be able to go for the Concordant Crossroads here with Imperial Seal, although this puts it on top, doesn't it? Yeah, so we've still got a chance of getting out of this. We'll have to top deck into it though. So our opponent's passing the turn round to us. We get another counter on the Bloodchief Ascension. Let's see what we get into here. Thieves Guild Enforcer, I don't think does anything at all. Alright, so in that case we'll just go for the Anowon. And they're going wide on us either way, so let's just swing in with the 2 rogues. That one will mill 2. See if they've got any more tutors to mill. Here's Heroic Intervention and Azuri Renegade Leader. So just taking it, we deal 8 damage to them. Which means we will mill them for 8. And get rid of a lot of lands off the top there. Nearly all lands, apart from the 3 visits. And get into Opposition Agent. So our opponent's got us here, or they should do. I'm assuming they know about the combo they've put in their deck. Yeah, they're going for it here. We can see all the squirrels that they're making, so let's just concede there and call that a game. We'll try and get a real one in now. Anowon the Ruin Thief versus Sliver Hivelord. We've got some big spells in hand, but we've got enough lands for our commander, so yeah, I'll keep that one. We're on the play as well, so we don't get an additional card, unfortunately. Just have to hope that our opponent's really slow. They're going for a tap then. We might be able to screw up their colours with a Wasteland, which I'd rather not do, but... And of course now we get into the 1 mana rogue. Although we can get that out here with the Frog Tosser Banneret, because it makes our rogues cost a generic less. And then we'll go in with the Hasty Frog Tosser Banneret. A tap land from our opponent, so they're going nice and slow. That's really good for us. We've got a Force of Will to help back up our little rogue army here. So let's turn in sideways with both of those, and we're just going in for Anowon next turn, I imagine. Would be really nice to get Keeper of the Keys down to make ourselves the Monarch. Now a basic land from our opponent. Seems like they're actually doing something with it here. Ooh, Chromatic Lantern. Takes me off of the idea of Wasteland then. Might actually have to force that. Yeah, let's go for Force of Will onto that. I think that's going to be way too useful for our opponent. They might actually be relying on that. They're still missing a couple of colours. That also puts them having to make 2 lands to get their commander into play. Okay, Greaves for us. It is just Anowon, and we'll keep our fingers crossed for a land. Oh, there was actually no need to tap the Wasteland there. Yeah, forgetting all about the Frog Tosser Banneret. We could actually cast the Keeper of Keys, but still would have gone for our commander here. Start milling them. With them being a tribal deck, they may well have some reanimation of their own. I know we've got the tribal reanimation spell, Patriarch's Bidding. Getting rid of a Dryad of the Elysian Grove, so maybe it's not a Sliver deck, although, yeah, Shifting Sliver suggests that it is. As does Unclaimed Territory. And then they've got Mirari's Wake there as well. We get into another land. Not that we need it like I thought we did for the Keeper of Keys. Now a command tower for our opponents, so 1 land off of their commander. Might actually have to wasteland them next turn. Alright, they were going to play something and then decided against it, so they might have a Flash Sliver or something. We have Fetid Pools, which is a tap land, might actually play that this turn. Although we want Keeper of Keys really, don't we? Yeah, let's go for the Wasteland now. I think the Flash Sliver is green, so we'll take them off the green mana. Alright, and now they're going for something. That is Doomblade. That's a strange one for them to go for. Maybe they're just worried about all the Sliver. Yeah, that's probably what they're doing actually. They'll be worried about all the Sliver buffs that we'll get with that. So now we can go in for the island. And there's no point getting down Keeper of the Keys yet. Let's see what we draw into. Hit our opponent for 4. And that gets us into a Chrome Mox, which allows us to get rid of the Lightning Greaves. Don't feel the need to do that just yet, so we'll get down the Keeper of the Keys and we'll see what we want to do with that Mox next turn. Got rid of a Cloud Shredder Sliver, by the way, that's one of the best ones. Once Upon a Time, another good card to get rid of, a Scoured Barrens, and the first Sliver is also really good. We become the Monarch, so we'll draw at the end of the turn. And hopefully our stuff will be unblockable next turn. They get an Overgrown Tomb intapped, so they've got all their colours here, they just need 1 more land. Turns out that countering the Chromatic Lantern was relevant. All of our stuff is unblockable now that the Monarchy is in play. Yeah, and there's nothing we can do here. I'll probably get down the Lightning Greaves. If we don't draw into anything, let's go through to attacks. Gonna take a big chunk away from our opponent here. That is 9 damage, so we mill them for 9. And it is Obelisk of Erd, the Opaline Sliver, Sliver Queen, Sentinel Eyes, Ground Shaker Sliver, some lands, and a Constricting Sliver we've gotten rid of as well. We've drawn into Zareth. Let's just drop the Drowned Catacomb. And I suppose we can throw down the Lightning Greaves as well. I'll probably cycle the Fetid Pools. Do they have counter magic of their own? Alright, going for counter spell onto that. I'm actually fine with just getting that out of their hand. We don't need Lightning Greaves. Although we might wish we had it if we see a board wipe here. Cover of Darkness is kind of like more unblockable. Yeah, and our opponent doing the right thing and drawing the next card. But we just managed to control the game out nicely there. If they'd managed to get the Chromatic Lantern into play, then they could have dropped the, what was it that we got rid of, the Command Tower and straight into their commander, or something like the first Sliver. I mean, obviously they milled that, so they didn't have it in hand. But they could have gotten their commander down there, and we might have had trouble with them. I think we would have done. I mean, we were unblockable, but they could have taken the monarchy straight away from us, so yeah, without that force of will, it would have been a much different game. I think we should get on with another one. Anowon the Ruin Thief versus Darien King of Kjeldor. Well, fast mana really helps with the Kindred Discovery. So, yeah, we've only got one rogue, but I think we can keep that. Our opponent just plays out a land to start off with. Let's throw down a swamp into a Sol Ring and hope that they don't have any removal for that. Our opponent gets into some ramp of his own in the Ancient Tomb. That is a Norn's Annex, which is probably one of the worst things we could see in a Dimir deck, in a creature-based Dimir deck. Demonic Tutor, I don't even know if we've got an answer to tutor for. Let's throw down the Drowned Catacomb. And I think we could go for Ghostly Pilferer and a tutor. Yeah, maybe we go for that. So let's get down the Pilferer first. And then we'll go for the tutor. Maybe we just have to be really fast against them. Perhaps Rankle would be good here. Especially if we can get down the Kindred Discovery. I think maybe going for Rankle might be a good idea. And then it is Piana, Nomad Captain. Whenever it attacks, attacking creatures you control get a +1 buff. Then high market for us. Let's grab ourselves another blue source, ready for the Kindred Discovery. And then maybe we just go for Rankle here to try and disrupt their hand, because white really has trouble with drawing cards. So let's swing in at them. And we'll have to pay 2 life for that. Then we managed to hit them, so we will say each player sacrifices a creature and discards a card. Yeah, and then if they get into some fast mana next turn, they can get down their commander. But they'll only have the one creature ready for us to force them to sacrifice again, maybe. Now a Glorious Anthem from our opponent, which isn't any good when they don't have any creatures in play. A Chrome Mox for us. I think we will just discard that this turn. So how's about the Kindred Discovery? And we will name Rogue in the Rogue Tribal deck. So then we swing into our opponent. We will pay the 2 life. We draw a card. Okay, Frog Tosser Banneret will make our rogues cost less. So there's an argument to be made here. Is this the one where... Yeah, we could exile the Damnation under that to get the Frog Tosser Banneret into play. But I think we'll just go for the discard thing here. Just for the sake of giving our opponent a hard time. And then I think it's a tap land with the Verdant Catacombs. But we'll do that at the end of our opponent's turn. Probably also a good idea to keep hold of Damnation against a Darien deck as well. Alright, they are just passing through the turn. They didn't get into a land for their commander. Let's go for the Cycle land. They have discarded a Jinxed Idol. And an Eldrazi Monument, by the way. Okay, and then an Urborg. So, let's go for the Frog Tosser Banneret. And we can potentially draw a lot of cards here. One comes into play, a rogue that is, so we draw with the Kindred Discovery, then we'll get down our commander as well. Let's just throw down the swamp because Urborg actually helps our opponent with the Ancient Tomb. Forgot to mention actually that Diablo 2 is actually a friend of the channel. He let me know before the beginning of the game. So big thank you to Diablo for playing with me. We draw into a couple of cards, including the Vampiric Tutor, thanks to the Kindred Discovery, and then we'll mill our opponent and hopefully draw some with the Anowon as well. So we'll do the discard thing with Rankle. We've dealt 6 damage to our opponent, so we will mill them for 6. And get rid of Plea for Guidance, Honour of the Pure, a Bastion Protector, extra planar Lens, a land, and Lightning Greaves, so we get into Oubliette. Then we discard Urborg. And now with that, I think we can go for the Talisman of Dominance. We'll hold up the Vampiric Tutor. And our opponent still needs to get into a land here. Looks as though they're just passing through the turn again, so it's unlucky for our opponent. So do we just have them next turn? I don't think we... yeah, we've got exactly enough on them. Just in case they've got some removal, I'll go for the Vamp Tutor. And we'll just grab the Fierce Guardianship for the sake of protecting us from any spot removal. So I'll drop a land and just turning sideways at them. Pay some life again. We're having to pay the life into this because we obviously can't produce white mana. Chromatic Lantern is in the deck, so that's yet another utility variance that you could make use of it with. But it looks as though our opponent... Oh, knocking them down to 2. Clearly I can't do basic mental arithmetic. I thought we had them there. Well, I don't think we've got another hasty rogue to tutor for anyway. Maybe could have gone for a Lord, I'm not sure. In fact, yeah, we probably could have done. Get into a land. We will discard... just discard the Dimir Signet. Yeah, I don't think there's any need to go for the True Name Nemesis. And they finally get into that land. It's a little too late, unfortunately, if they're just relying on the Darien. And they can't tap the Ancient Tomb anymore anyway. So taking themselves out on their own turn, I can respect that. Yeah, big thank you to Diablo2 for playing against me and for watching the channel. Hopefully you all enjoyed this one. I think I will try another one, in which it can hopefully be a fair matchup. Our opponent was still a land away from the Elesh Norn. Going for one more round with Anowon, this time up against Purphoros, God of the Forge. And I'm going to hope that that's a decent hand. We've got a turn 1 rogue. We are on the draw as well, so we'll get to have another chance of getting into another rogue here. Our opponent just plays a land and passes. Bitter Blossom is good for turn 2. That has flash, so no need to cast it now. We'll go for the Thieves Guild Enforcer at the end of our opponent's turn. And a Mana Crypt for our opponent. So that looks like a turn 2 Purphoros to me. And it is. So we'll go for the Thieves Guild Enforcer in response to that. Our opponent will mill 2 cards. We get rid of a Pashalik Mons and a Vesuva. I'm assuming that that is in here for Valor Cup, but not entirely sure. So we're going to help our opponent along with this Bitter Blossom, but I imagine we've already lost this one thanks to the fast mana. Nothing we can do about it in a Dimir deck unless we've got counter magic. Let's throw down the Command Tower and the Bitter Blossom. And then we'll swing in at our opponent. More fast mana, so no shame in losing this one. Seems to be the way it goes in 1v1 Magic. There's Ugin the Ineffable. And they get rid of our Bitter Blossom, so we can at least get rid of the Ugin here without going for the Cyclonic Rift onto that. A Triton Stalker, so maybe it's Flooded Strand. We can go Lightning Greaves and the Triton Stalker. And then we'll have haste ready for our commander when we draw into a land next turn. Fingers crossed. Although I suppose we could always go Pestamite on our opponent's turn here. We could always do that during the upkeep so that we can tap down their Mana Crypt. Yeah, let's go for the Flooded Strand. And we'll just get down a basic island. And then we might encourage our opponent to go for untapping the Mana Vault here. So we'll wait for that opportunity to pass them by. So now that that is gone by, we can go for the Pestamite, tap down that Mana Vault, or the Mana Crypt even. And we will mill our opponent for 2 because a rogue has entered. Getting rid of Jeskai's Will, that's really good. And getting rid of Vandal Blast as well. So they get 1 damage dealt to them by the Mana Vault. And we just have to keep our fingers crossed that they don't get to make a land here. Well, there's a runaway Steamkin. That might be a means of producing some extra mana. I think might be an idea for us. If we get into a land here, we'll go for our commander, but might have to go Cyclonic Rift. Alright, Sig River Cutthroat is a means of drawing cards. I don't think they're going to block. Let's see if they block first. They do not, so I'd be tempted to go for Sig here then. If we go for Sig and Triton Shorestalker, that should be okay. Just have to hope that our opponent doesn't go for a board wipe. Mill our opponent again. Then Sig River Cutthroat will mill them again. And we've got the buff on the Thieves Guild Enforcer now, Death Touch, and it's a 3-2. They milled Heat Shimmer, Chandra's Spitfire, Dragon Fodder, and Krenko's Command. So getting rid of a couple of token producers. And then we'll draw a card with the Sig because they lost life. A Slither Blade will help us to recover from some kind of board wipe. If they lose 3 life here, we're drawing with Sig at the end of this turn as well. I think they managed to dodge that there. Okay, tapping some mana in response to taking the damage from Mana Vault. I hope that's not a mistake on their part, because they won't be able to untap that now. Might see a shame scoop here. They already passed through the untapping the Mana Vault phase. This is the annoying thing about Magic Online, it's not the type of error that would ever occur in paper. Although that might be telling as to the type of thing that's in their hand. If they were looking to untap this, then they might be looking for a big spell next turn. Yeah, that's a shame. It looks like that's what our opponent did. Good for our opponent for playing it through though. Still no land for us. I think it's just Slither Blade. Mill them again. This time it is Roiling Vortex and Goblin Warrens. We'll riff their commander after combat because it might dictate what they block. Deciding not to block either Sig or the Death Toucher, knocking them down to 11. So we'll go for the rift onto Purphoros just to buy ourselves an extra turn. Because they'll have to waste mana recasting their Purphoros here. Purphoros decks don't tend to work without their commander in play. Draw a card, gets us into mana drain. Unfortunately can't make use of bounce counter. And they lose the flip with the mana crypt, so we will draw a card with Sig at the end of the turn. And they decide to scoop there. Not sure if that turn off would have helped them there. Maybe they could have gotten into something like an Inferno Titan this turn, or a big X spell or something. I would think they could still do some decent damage to us with some kind of burn X spell, because they can still put 2 into it. Let's see what we were drawing into. Getting into the lands that we needed eventually, so probably would have just been Anowon and swinging for the victory next turn. I think we had a few good games there. Not the best games from our opponents, unfortunately, but I'll use this to test the waters to see if anyone still wants to see games from Anowon the Ruin Thief. Be sure to let me know what you all think, and I will see you all in the next one. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.